Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Loreweek. Hope you'll be even and fair with me. Hasn't been a lot of news this week. Nothing of significance happened this week, other than GDQ. 2.7 million raised, which I think, and I haven't actually looked into this because I haven't had time, is a record for an online-only marathon. And is an incredible amount regardless. That is legitimately impressive. I am shocked that they managed that much. Granted, I didn't get to watch much of it because I was getting work done. Lots of work. Happy New Year's, Michael. So, obviously we always start with show news. We're going to be trying out a new program today that you guys won't see, of course, but I will. And we'll see how it works. It's a web interface, which is question mark. But like I said, we'll see. We'll see how this works out. It'll be interesting to see if this is better or worse than going through and just writing them down in a text file. But there, speaking of which, got a lot of theater work stuff done. Oh, there's the first donation, right? So hang on. So that's from Geludo. So let's. Oh, that's not going to work, is it? Maybe if we do this. There we go. So, amount to from... That's a sub. It's a prime sub, specifically. That's from Geludo. There you are. During... Oh, God, here they come. What's his interest in Hat and Time? Hat... Time, there it is. Boop. Save. Okay, we've successfully logged a donation from Geludo. Hang on, what else we got here? Trafin. Also a sub. That's also a Prime Gaming sub. Prime Gaming sub. Let's see if I can keep up with this. Trafin. There's Trafin. Doesn't matter. And that's interest into Dealer's Choice, which... Oh god, Zalok! There's no way to track Dealer's Choice. Huh. It's okay, Zactap. You can rip him out of his corpse. What did I do? That's just what happened Wednesday. Nothing happened Wednesday. Thank you. Let's see. So we got thank you, Geludo. Very much. Thank you, Trafin. Very, very much appreciate. Thank you, Wraith. And thank you, Blue Wolf Alex. Very much. All of you for the subs. So we had Trafin to Dealer's Choice, Geludo to Hat in Time, Wraith to FF6 SNES, and Blue Wolf Alex to Trails of Cold Steel 1. Right. Yeah, I guess that conversation can wait. Anyways, cancel, just go back to donations. There we go. Lost my train of thought a little bit. Yeah, so Zalok has been helping me here with a program in order to facilitate paperworks. There's Zalok. Okay, I'm going to stop typing, because typing is inefficient anyway. Zalok, now that you're here and you can just hear me, I think Dealer's Choice... I don't think there's a solution there. Just I've sat and processed that for a bit. I'm pretty sure Dealer's Choice is just going to have to be in the text file, right? That I've already been doing. I don't see an alternative there. Thank you, Tazara. Very, very much, as always. Oh my god. So Tazara, that's a tier 3. Which is here. It can be a game, but that... I mean, what do I do with reallocation then, Zalok? Especially since I can't even do that right now. Once I actually put it towards a game... I'm just going to keep it in the text file. Because, effectively, That donation hasn't happened yet. It hasn't, because, and so it doesn't actually need to hit the database because there's nothing for it to hit. A donation has come in, and that's it. But a donation has not landed. So I'm thinking that I'm just going to keep track of that manually. I do not see a good alternate to that. If you think you can come up with one, go for it. But so far, I have not heard a good idea there. My donation structure is not actually all that complicated. It's more complex under the hood than it is over the hood. You know, your interface is simple. Tell me what you want to put it towards. Done. And that's pretty much the extent of it. I have to keep track of a few more things, though. I'll admit that. Thank you, Ginger Overseer, for that sub. And I'll put that towards Bloodborne. I'm just going to use the text file for right now. I mean, the database isn't even correct, and I can't even fix the return to Oberdin entry, so I'm just going to... I was going to use it live, Zalok. I'm not going to do that, because I need to keep track of this. Dragon Age 2 from Super Hollow Man. Thank you, Super Hollow Man, very, very much. As ever and as always. And I put that towards Dragon Age 2. And then someone donated straight in the middle of that. Oh my gosh. Where is that sheet? I've got so many tabs up right now, but it's almost entirely for everything else. Cesaro will also put his towards Dragon Age 2. You got it. And then Silver Mask is putting it towards Valiant Hearts. Thank you very, very much, Silver Mask. Now, in case you're wondering why I can so immediately reallocate that, I've already tried to get that game streamable. We've actually already attempted that and failed that. So I've already done the legwork. So veto. That's okay. He's fine, Zarknet. He's fun. He's fun. So for those of you not aware, we've been streaming GDQ, restreaming GDQ for the last week. I didn't get a lot of watching that done. I did get a lot of work done, as I was already mentioning. So I'm done with Season 2 of Enterprise. Frankly, I could have actually finished Season 3 of Enterprise as well if I really booked it and didn't get anything else done. I decided not to do that. I decided to go ahead and be interrupted by Spartan J for 3 bits. Thank you very, very much for those bits. As ever. And as always, thank you, Spec Ops Malign. I decided instead to try and spread out and get some other stuff done, which included doing a huge amount of yard work with my sister. Oh my god, that was like half the day. Ooh. And Timonosh, who is also trying to interrupt me, thank you very much for that sub. As usual, putting it towards Wasteland 3. I also saw Wonder Woman 1984 with Third, and spent a day playing WoW. It's actually funny. I feel embarrassed to admit that. And you're probably thinking, what? Why WoW? Well, it was actually spending a day to hang out with PAX, was the whole point there. But other than that, I spent the entire week smashing stuff, got a huge amount of theater work done. We're just inches close. If GDQ wasn't done, I wouldn't be live right now, Pika. We are inches away from finishing FF9. We're right there. All the Kuina lines have been done. Props to Lene Ruth for that. And I'm almost done with the Metaton lines over in the second theater, so that's awesome. Also, got some work done on a completely new project, which I guess I could talk about now. So, how many of you guys saw the Extant Parish video? The 6-minute one, not the streams. Now, you're gonna make me very sad because I'm sure none of you did. But or very few of you. There's gonna be like one person, yeah, I did it. It was alright, I guess. There's gonna be one person's like, you know. Did anybody, please tell me at least one person saw that video. Oh, thank God. Okay, one person. One person watched the Extant video. 2 people. Oh my God. It's the one that's animated sprites, to be very clear about this. And it was about 20 hours solid. I was actually tracking my time on that. And And we've already got a funding going for the second episode, which we're working on. The Extant Tales video, Larian. I got a lot of positive feedback about that when it went live. I got a lot of positive feedback in general. I loved doing it, and it's something I've actually wanted to do for so long. Check this is not a joke. So I have a wish list here on my notes, and you're probably thinking, what? But this wish list is so old that this is actually from 3 years ago. And there's all sorts of stuff in this wish list, which include music, the wiki project, which I never got. I wanted to get drawing, physically fit again. I've already done that one by now. Speedrunning, never going to happen. Tassing, never going to happen. Self-sufficient on the show, finally there. You know, a bunch of stuff here. But there's actually, if I scroll down into the show category of my ambitions wish list, one of them is do FF6 sprites flash animations. Now, obviously, what you saw was not done in Flash. It was done directly with keyframing in Premiere, but that is how long that has been in my mind as something I really wanted to do. I just wanted to show my work on that one. And using it as a way to showcase the extant just feels like a perfect merger. And while I was at my sister's, she gave me an idea. And that idea is to put that towards AC Valhalla. Thank you very, very much, Pika. Whoops, that's the wrong button. Yeah, it's on my list since Flash was a thing. Shoot. Hang on a second. Hit the wrong button. That was not about the Primus campaign, but I don't blame you for not knowing that. I'm sure most people don't know what the extant is, and that's something I'm kind of trying to correct. The only way to do that is by consistent information. But yes, the one with the sprites is correct. Sis gave me an idea, and I talked it over with Mr. Reloaded, and it's something that we're both thinking about going ahead and moving forwards with. So, how many of you like the Star Trek Rewrite project? That's funny, Spartan. Probably one's better than on a phone. Or on the PC, excuse me. Oh, by the way, we will be doing that tonight. We will be covering, I guess, episodes 4 and 5, I think, from Enterprise. Is I think where we're at. We're still in Season 1 of Enterprise. No, Mr. Red, but thank you for asking. It's not going to go live, that's there. That's the simplest way I can answer that. Anyways. So we, you've already figured it out. I'm thinking about doing animated videos to summarize the Star Trek rewrites as a way to visually present them. Now, because I live in reality land and I have a full-time job where I stream for 10 hours a day, 6 days a week, I don't really have the availability to go full tilt there. Coming up with custom animations, actually having actors, or coming up with custom sprites, none of that's on the table. All of that is completely unfeasible. So the only way to actually make that work would be to use pre-existing sprites in the exact same manner that I did with the extant stuff. So... you don't see the sprite video. Oh, wow, that's interesting. It is the first video. Shut up, past me. There you go. No, Peak, I've decided never to stream again. There you go, there's the video in question. Imperial Star Destroyer. Thank you, Linkelda, for that sub. As ever, and as always, appreciated. If you know where you want to put that, as far as increasing priority, please let me know. Where do I get Trek sprites? I don't. That's exactly my point. Getting back on track mentally here. Because I got distracted there by Imperial Star Destroyer's question. And a donation. How could you guys? Can I stream PS3 games? Yes? So, depends on the game. The point here, though, is that we would have to borrow sprites. Now, I already talked to Mr. Reloaded about this, and frankly, I've actually already selected sprites that I would use. Sprite sheets. So the whole idea, some of you probably don't care about this, but tough, is yes, there are older Trek games with sprites. We are 100% absolutely really not using those. Those are terrible. So what we're going to do is we're going to do the same thing that I did with the Extant thing. Now, there's a term for this, and I've never thought of I can never find the term for this, but it's a theatrical thing. When you go on stage and you hold up a mask, and it's like you have a... No, Zed Slayer. You have... Trust me on this one, okay? You have a stick, and there's a sheet of paper here with like a crude lion's face on it. And the actor walks up and does this. Everyone automatically mentally realizes and associates that is now an actor who is portraying a lion, right? Whatever that concept is what I'm going to continue to do. It's a visual reassociation thing. It's you're watching, Final Fantasy characters play Star Trek characters, right? That's how we're doing it. That is the only way this is a feasible operation, and it's the only way it's going to work in any kind of applicable manner. Otherwise, this is just a pipe dream that will never happen. I don't remember what it's called, Zalok. There is a term for that. There's an actual term for that. Like I said, it's a theater thing. So yeah, we're going to be showing equivalence rather than... so what we're going to do is each specific show is going to have its own sprite set, and we're going to limit ourselves to that specific sprite set. So, for example, Enterprise will be Chrono Trigger. I've actually already gone through and selected characters for everyone. TOS will be Final Fantasy 1 and 2, because they're basically the same sprite set. TNG will be the Fire Emblem games from the GBA. There's 2 of them, and again, same sprite set. Deep Space Nine will be Final Fantasy Tactics, which has quite a few characters, and I think is a rather appropriate pick anyways. And Voyager will be the 32-bit Mega Man stuff. That is X4, X5, and X6. So that's 3 games to work with there. That's what we're going to do. I've already sat down and come up with which characters will be what, depending. And I hope you guys will actually find this idea interesting, because if you don't, then I got nothing. Hang on, Linkelda. I've never heard of this game, so I gotta look it up. Sorry, give me a second here. We gotta hit the stream brakes. Well, that's an interesting question, As Your Hurricane. So, first of all, one of the whole points of rewriting Star Trek is to make it better, to cohesify it and to codify it and all sorts of fun stuff like that. So as a direct consequence, Enterprise shouldn't be the worst, right? At least that's the idea. It's possible we will fail, but because we are rewriting Enterprise, we don't want it to be the worst one, so it's not like we're going to pick some crappy sprite thing to do it. Otherwise, we're just sabotaging our own efforts at the very beginning, right? Now, some thought did go into which games are showing for which, because we have several requirements when it comes to what would make good sprite sheets for these kind of things. For example, we need something that has decent visual distinction, something that has reasonable backgrounds for it that we can use, something that has a reasonable amount of animations per sprite, and something that has a lot of separate sprites. That's why we picked the ones we picked. For example, if I just picked, off the top of my head, Super Mario Bros. 1, that would be terrible, because there's really only one individual sprite in that whole thing that has any kind of animations. That's Mario, and even that's barely. And there's just not enough variety to really make that work, right? Every NPC that shows up during every episode who is not a named character would be a Goomba or a Koopa, right? So we need something with more variety and greater depth. So why Chrono Trigger for Enterprise? Because Enterprise has more slightly human aliens than anything else. And Chrono Trigger has a whole lot of sprites for imps and Hekrans, and the Mystics, and like the aliens, and the dudes who have the weird masks on their faces, and basically a whole lot of additional characters that would be good for the aliens, the individuals that will be showing up. That's an invalid question, Mr. Red, because they don't exist. Now, this game, what does this game exist on? And if it's just on the PS3, I'm going to have to hook up my PS3, aren't I? God damn it. Why can't I just check? And yeah, it's $50. No, we're not doing Discovery. And I wouldn't use FF6 anyways, because I'm using FF6 on the extant stuff. I don't want people to get confused. As pointed out earlier, Dream Whisper was already confused about which thing is which. Visual distinction is one of the tools I have to try and make sure that people don't mistake one thing for another. So, we will not be using FF6 at all. Actually, yes. In Chrono Trigger, it does Silver Mask. Although we're also not doing that one. Okay, so that's why Chrono Trigger. TOS being FF1 and FF2 should actually be fairly self-apparent, because we needed something that has a reasonable amount of, you know, all the things I mentioned earlier, all the variety we need, and all of the character stuff we need, There it is. And FF1 and FF2 combined just kind of barely squeak under the radar, or squeak under the line for requirements there. Come on. But it's also got that kind of old pseudo-retro look, and also has some relatively simplistic stuff to it. Okay. Is it hooked up? Okay, it is hooked up. No, Ben Wilmot, that is 100% not true, and I absolutely do not agree with that sentence. But I will cover that in just a moment. No, it's okay. It's just I've been fighting against that presumption for quite some time. Thank you, Sinister Wing, for the interruption. As always, appreciate Oberdin. And thank you, Shikor, very, very much for that sub. I will put that towards Oracle of Ages. Okay, where's my PS3 controller? Where is my PS3 controller? Why is it not right here? That's my PS2 controller. Do I have a PS... No, of course I don't. I put it away. Right. Anyways, FF1 will be toss. I probably don't have to explain that one. Now, I actually would imagine that I don't need to explain why Final Fantasy Tactics is Deep Space Nine. But because I'm being fully communicative here, I'll go and explain it. First of all, obviously it meets all the standard requirements. They also have black people. That's nice. And there's no power. Of course, there's no power. But the other problem, the other reason, is because Deep Space Nine is not exactly the most popular Star Trek, right? Maybe amongst Trek fans, but in... Really? But in popular parlance, that's TNG. That's the golden boy. But amongst Trek fans and science fiction fans, well, there's a little bit more popularity there when it comes to Deep Space Nine, right? Now, having said all that, the same general concept kind of applies to Final Fantasy Tactics, a game that really is not particularly popular, but most people who have actually played Final Fantasy Tactics tend to praise it, right? Same general concept. And admittedly, it has a whole lot of good stuff, right? Plus, Final Fantasy Tactics is this big, dramatic political drama, so that just kind of seems to fit Deep Space Nine. Oh, where the heck is this controller? There we are. Can you hear this? You might actually be able to hear this. Not me, the PS3. Here we go. On. Oh, jeez. Okay. I have to stand over here to log into the PS3. Give me a second here. Barely see the thing. Hello. Can't actually see chat right now, sorry. I'm assuming you can hear me. There we go, okay. PlayStation Store, there it is. This is why PS3 games are a case-by-case basis, by the way. Assuming you can't. I see the mic thing now. So that's why Final Fantasy Tactics. So then Voyager. Now, we were running into a bit of a wall with Voyager, honestly. And what it really boiled down to... Here we go. Search. Godfather... Is it The Godfather? We'll try The Godfather. The space. Hang on. You mean The Godfather 2? So I see The Godfather 2 here. Which I can't buy. Why is it even on the PSN if you can't buy it? I do not see any other Godfathers. Just The Godfather 2. The first one's not on here at all, so no. we have sufficiently determined that the answer is no. I will not allow that run to happen. There you go. So it's not even on here. What was I saying? Voyager. I kept running into a wall with Voyager. No, the Trek movies will be FF1 and 2, Mr. Red, for the same reasons as previously. Part of the problem I was running into is I have all these Mega Man sprites, and Mega Man sprites are really good for sprite work. Like, there's all kinds of stuff you can do with that. It's just absolutely through the roof. Holy crap, right? Now, that meant I wanted, for practicality reasons, to use Mega Man sprites on something. So what happened is I sat down and I'm like, no, I didn't Retro Justice, I'm sorry. Except I did. No, I do not, Micro. I should, and I thought about it, and then I've fallen behind on that list. But yes, thank you for the sub, Retro Justice. I'll put that towards Pandarian. I suppose I should keep a list somewhere. I guess I can start it right now. The Godfather 1 and 2, PS3. There, boom. I'm sorry I'm not working hard enough, guys. I actually legitimately feel bad that I didn't get more work done this week. Hi, Crimson King. I wanted to use Mega Man for something, and I sat down with Lore Reloaded, and I'm like, alright, think of the Star Trek, because we've got Enterprise, TOS, TNG, DS9, and Voyager 5. Bam. And of those 5, we have to use a sprite set for each. And there's just not that many other sprite sets that really fulfill our requirements here. So as a direct consequence, I wanted to use Mega Man for something. It's just efficient. So I said to him, which of these series shouts Mega Man to you? So that's why we're using it for Voyager. Earlier, Zalok asked if we're using Metal Shark Player for anyone. Yes, that will be Tuvok. So that's the general direction we're going with that. I don't promise much with regards to how well it's going to happen. Yeah, exactly. The good news is Mega Man sprites tend to be cohesive. That's why we will be pulling sprites from X5, 4, 5, and 6. Is because we can do that. Because they are effectively the same sprite set. Because of how they do that. I could also pull X1, 2, and 3 if I had to. But that would be separate, which is why I'm not doing that, although let's not get into that right now. Hi, Lord Harriman, high vigilance. So that's the news on that front. Hopefully it'll be cool when we get there. Hopefully people will like it when we get there. And if they don't, they can suck it. So, that brings us to, I think that's it for show news. One quick thing. How many of you guys know Windows 10 well? Like, really well? Like, understand the infrastructure of how the operating system works? That's too far. Less well than that, but still well. Does anybody know Windows 10 quite well? Because I need someone. I should have just asked you, Gary, but I was busy. So Explorer, just Windows Explorer, not IE, is having this really bad problem, and I cannot seem to fix it, where anytime I open any folder, it sits there for a solid 10 seconds thinking about it before it even shows the files in that folder. This is especially bad on my SSDs for some reason. So any hints on that one I would appreciate, because it's getting irritating. No idea where that's coming from. Okay. So let's go ahead and move forward. Let's talk about DMCAs. You guys love DMCAs, right? DMCAs are the bomb. Are they opening with IE? No! Having network mounts or networked computers. I do have the externals, so no. Effectively. Alright, Gary. Because, yeah, I need to look into that. I suppose, what's funny, actually, is the externals tend to open up quicker than the SSDs. Do I have to spin up the externals? Again, no. And again, these are SSDs that I'm primarily having this issue on. Alright, so DMCA stuff, right? So some of you are aware, Nintendo threw out a huge DMCA takedown attack. It's one of the bigger ones they've ever shown. To a site I don't even remember the name of, please forgive me. I should turn my PS3 off, whatever. And it was attacking fan games. Now, what's really funny about this is I looked over the letter. Nier Automata, you got it, Link Kelvin. I can do that one. I can do that one. No, it wasn't MU Paradise. I already did that, Zillow. No change. And again, not really applicable, but anyways. You're making me look it up now. You're making me look it up. The name of the site was Game Jolt is the name of the site. There you go. Bam. So they complied, obviously, but the literature, the language of the request was, well, you use ads on this site, and some of those games use Nintendo assets, which means we own them. Therefore, you are making money off of our assets, therefore we are requiring you to put them down. Now, I do think this actually falls under copy wrong, but I'll admit this is getting into slightly more gray territory than the normal copy wrong. This is just... See, okay. The problem here is... There's actually several problems here. The first and most obvious is the fact that this is basically saying that you can't buy an action figure and then run around and make a puppet show for it and then put it on your YouTube channel and then make money off of that YouTube channel through the ad revenue. To use a direct parallel. Like, I cannot... It is, by the exact same logic, I cannot use this amiibo right here and be like, hey, and make money off of this show that I'm making money off of right now, because this is owned by Nintendo, this object that I own. Now, this is getting into some more deep legal issues here, but what this really boils down to is that Nintendo is continuing to prove that they lived 30 years ago. 50 years ago. God, we're too far into the future. That they lived 50 years ago and have no idea how to actually deal with this kind of situation. But I don't want to rant about that for the 7 trillionth time. What I want to talk about is the weird situation we have with legalization and criminalization. So, hear me out for a second. Although, side note, you'll notice that Capcom also released an announcement which basically said, we're cool with basically everything. Except for porn. And, paywalls were the two big things that they adjusted there. Which is interesting when you think about it. Let's rewind a second. Let's talk about that porn thing for a second. I know that's a weird thing to sit on. I want you to imagine for a moment that you have your own setting, or your own fiction, or your own product that you've produced. You know, I know at least Blue Wolf Alex knows what I'm talking about here. So that's, you know, that's something that is a valid comparison. I'm sure at least some of you have thought about writing your own stuff or making your own stuff. And I want you to imagine that whatever it is you're making gets really, really popular. And then someone out there starts making pornography based on it, or using the assets from it, or cosplaying as it, or whatever. What do you do about that? It's interesting. Can you do anything about it? Well, obviously, Capcom thinks they can, because they just made it part of their new EULA. What's interesting is I'm, you know, prude, right? But I look at that sort of thing and I'm like that would bother me. And I'll admit it freely. That would 100% bother me if someone tried to sexualize the extant. That would kind of gross me out a bit. But I'm not sure if anything should be done about that. And I'm not just mentioning this to rant or to be a prude, but actually because this leans neatly into my legalization versus criminalization argument. Because one of the really strange things here, one of the really strange things about the idea, the concept of legalization versus criminalization is that both are bad and that both are good. Hear me out. Let's say for a moment that you have something that you dislike. I should have prepared an analogy before this. You like wasabi peas. There you go. Anybody like wasabi peas? I like wasabi peas. So we've got wasabi peas. Okay, that's cool. Let us say that we make wasabi peas illegal. It is now no longer legal. So owning and eating and all this is now illegal. Okay, cool. What artificial colors? Do they dye these things? Sorry, I'm looking at the ingredients on this. It's like green peas, cornstarch, glutinous rice flour, sugar, soybean oil, salt, wasabi powder, and then artificial colors. The second to last ingredient on the wasabi peas. What the hell? Anyways, we've criminalized wasabi peas. Cool. Now, everyone's going to probably bring up prohibition, but what most people don't discuss when it comes to prohibition is the nature of exactly what that does culturally, not just legally. Because you have now, if you decide to criminalize something, you have removed all restraints upon that thing, all limiters. Now you're probably thinking, what? Because if you have something legalized, you can regulate it, which is a good thing, but also a bad thing. because it means those in power have the ability to say exactly how it can and should be used. If you completely deregulate it, then anybody can do whatever and however they want to. It's illegal, but there's no... Okay, I've got a really dumb analogy. Driving. Zlartek. Zlartek is a perfect example. He should be illegalized. It's a new word. Zlartek is now illegalized. And because he's illegalized, I can't put that towards Hyrule Warriors 2. It's impossible now, because it's no longer legal to do so, right? Well, actually, the exact opposite is true, because I can absolutely put that towards Hyrule Warriors 2 and say thank you, and then punch him, and then stab him, and then give him $100. I can do whatever I want, because it's illegal. There's no limiters there. There's no regulation. There's no oversight. You follow? Now, that can be a good thing, and it can be a bad thing. It will introduce anything, and all of the good elements of regulation, and all of the bad elements of regulation. Admittedly, the prohibition in the United States is an excellent example, not because of what it did for speakeasies or criminal organizations, but because of what it did to cultural norms. We, here in the States, actually underwent a rather substantial cultural shift as a direct consequence of alcohol being made illegal. Because all of a sudden people would drink where they wouldn't. With people, they wouldn't. You know, they would drink what they wouldn't, with people they wouldn't normally, in places they wouldn't normally. And boundaries were smashed through, right? As a direct consequence. And yeah, black and white people started hanging out because it was illegal, so whatever. You can just, again, the limiter was removed. It's interesting to think about. And this, and yeah, also quite a few people and quite a few businesses were getting money they otherwise wouldn't. And you get the idea. This is my overall point. The criminalization versus legalization thing is an interesting topic to discuss and an interesting topic to look at. Oh, dude, I need to watch that. Paranoid. Shoutouts to Oversimplified. He's one of the history YouTubers I like to watch. I just haven't had a time to. But I was thinking about this with regards to the copyright thing specifically, because what Nintendo has been coming hard on is full criminalization, which hasn't really... Well, actually... Yeah, no, it's full criminalization, which has been causing a lot of people to just kind of do whatever and blah, blah, blah. But on the other side of things, some people have been voting for full legalization, which may or may not actually stymie it. Like, let me give you a hypothetical, because I'm probably speaking too generically here. Right now, if you had access to sprites, which you do, and access to any kind of game engine which you can buy, which you do, you can absolutely spend 5 minutes on Google right now and start making a fan game based on Mario, just right now. That's 100% possible and feasible with the tools that exist right now. That's because it's criminalized right now. The limiters are off. Now, obviously there are downsides to that too. This is why I mentioned both are good and both are bad. Because we have these problems where Nintendo will come cracking down on people like idiots, and I do think they're being stupid about this, by the way, and say, Shakong, no, not allowed. This then leads, of course, to problems where, so let's say they fully legalize it. Let's say making a fan game becomes a legal process and there's regulation put on it. So it's safer to do, because you don't have to be afraid of CBS coming and saying, hey, the Star Trek Rewrite project you have to shut down, which is a very real problem that Lower Loaded and I have been considering and talking about, by the way, because we are making money off of rewriting Star Trek, right? However, when you regulate something like that, you're going to have to go through paperwork. You're going to have to go through, proper process. You're going to have to you have to sign a form and get an application and get the right tools, which are approved, right? Adding paperwork and bureaucracy to the process means rather than just spending 5 minutes on Google to get started, you're going to have to spend probably days or weeks, depending on how long the process is, going through the exact right set of steps in order to be able to do that, which is going to stymie it. But on the other hand, of course, you won't have to have the threat. And you see why this is just a weird thing to think about. And this is, I'm sorry for going on about this topic, but this was really in the back of my mind, because even in this exact same case, this is the kind of thing where there's no good answer, per se. By the way, thank you, Zero. Always appreciate those subs. Even if you didn't tell me where you want to put them. Oh, Nier Automata. Got it. Now, there are other options here. See, and I cannot believe more companies don't do this. In the exact case of the DMCA thing, there's the option to case-by-case it, effectively. So let's say it's in the criminalization territory, which it is. Remember, that's where we're at right now. But Nintendo could look at Pokemon Uranium, I'll use a direct example, and say, all right, reach out to the makers of that game and say, hey, you want to become official? You want this to become a sponsored fan game? And they can say whatever they say in response. If they say no, then that's getting shut down. If they say yes, well then now they can start distributing that and stuff like that, right? Or AM2R is actually another excellent example of the same type of thing. Black Mesa is actually a practical application of what I'm talking about. A regulated, legal fan game. Sounds like blackmail. I mean... yeah, okay, I guess. I mean, it's a threat. You know, we want to make this under our wing or you're screwed. That is a threat. I'm not going to lie about that. But yeah, as I say, just about any legal interaction sounds like that. And so that's not really... but yeah, exactly, Blow Off Alex. Yes. It wouldn't even actually be all that hard to do. I mean, I think it was Zed Slayer said, it's too much work, let's just shut them all down. And I hope you were joking about that and just making fun, because honestly, it would not actually be that much work. Not really. It is not that hard to reach out and track fan products and track which ones are actually going somewhere, because there's also hundreds, if not thousands, if not more, fan projects and fan games which go nowhere. Because again, no limits. 5 minutes on Google. Right? But the ones that actually get finished, or look like they're going to get finished, now, there is, of course, an interesting... see, if you're paying attention, this actually sounds a whole lot like another argument we've actually run through, which was also more complex than it sounds. Some of you may remember that as paid mods. You remember that? Because this is effectively the same situation as the paid mod situation. It's just being expressed slightly differently. A fan in their own time has decided to take existing assets and make something new out of it, and someone else could walk in and say, okay, we'll make that legitimate. And then the fan gets to actually produce their thing. Now, I know some people... let's leave the realm... oh, sorry. Did I already say thank you to the sub? It's in my head. Yes, it was for Nier Automata. I said thank you. I already wrote it down. Oh, cool. Just making sure I had a flag in the back of my mind just to make sure I didn't forget about that. See, now here's the thing. The paid mods problem, and I talked about this when that was coming out, the problem was execution, not the idea. I actually am in support of paid mods as a concept. I just think Bethesda was stupid about how they were implementing it, because they were. But yeah, I do legitimately think that this is a decent idea. If nothing else, let's go back to the Pokemon Uranium idea. Those people could now actually work under the Nintendo umbrella with a budget and a staff and say, hey, and now they have a job in the industry. Right? Like, if you're paying attention, this is actually kind of how the MCU tends to operate in its own way. But I'm getting off topic there, so let's drift. Let's not drift that direction. We can only drift so far in this conversation. I know some people, to enter the realm of the theoretical, would prefer that if basically copyright law didn't exist. And there's some validity to that, as strange as that may sound. If copyright law just was gone, like, I could make a Mario game right now and sell it as a Mario game legally and without any repercussion is the kind of thing that has some validity to it. And you might say, well, that's just a legal hellhole, and you'd be right, especially nowadays. But that was actually how it was in several points in human history. It's actually one of the reasons why copyright law exists the way it currently does, is because people just kind of did that and just sort of got away with it. But I say that as if it's some big criminal thing, but it's worth noting that the benefit of that is that what you have now is the unstymied thing that I was just talking about with the criminalization concept. In other words, when you have when the doors are thrown open, on making stuff, then we have the possibilities to get a whole lot of new stuff, is what that really boils down to. New movies, new games, new books, new music. People being able to do their own takes on things, right? And that will lead to a lot of dreck and a lot of crap and the occasional gem of awesome. Just like it has in real life, back when you could do that and get away with it. So that's just the... Again, that's not going to happen, not until I take over the world. But that is the kind of thing that makes you think, huh... Well, nothing, Micromano, which is exactly the point. To be clear, I'm not arguing in favor of this idea, I am simply mentioning the idea and its benefits. Its detriments are so obvious I don't even feel the need to go into them. Thank you, Darth Tyron. Because its detriments are everything I was just talking about. It's the doors are open, good and bad. You know, there are issues with deregulation, especially when you take deregulation to such an extreme. Hang on just a second. That was 20. There it is. Fair use doesn't exist. I'm sorry. So, lots of people like to use fair use. Let's be clear about this. Fair use is a defense. It is not a law. It doesn't actually exist. If I was to make a Mario game based on Mario assets with my own levels and my own voice acting and all that stuff, and Nintendo decided to take me to court for that, I could use fair use as a defense in court, but it's not a law. It is simply the argument I am trying to use in order to show that I am within my legal bounds to utilize these assets in this way. Whether or not that wins or not, that depends on the judge, and if it goes far enough, the jury as well. Most of the stuff is just decided by judges, though, when it comes to corporate lawsuits. So fair use doesn't cover anything, is what I'm trying to say, and then that's a very common misconception, which is why I'm talking about it. I guess I don't actually have anything else to add to that. It's just something that was bouncing around in my head. Just something that was interesting with this whole Nintendo thing. Yeah, if you win the case, you still have to pay your lawyer and your court fees. I do think that more companies should I think that companies shouldn't blanket approach situations, but I think that about everything in general. Wait a second. I'm sorry, I'm making fun of myself here, but I mean that. I do think that more people need to be more case by case, rather than just blanket throwing an idea out and saying, we're just going to shut down everything, always and forever. Right? But anyways. Thank you, Mr. Red. As ever, and as always, appreciate. Thank you. Oh yeah, by the way, I'm not even talking about, let's see, Dead Rising, Miss Pac-Man, and Arx Fatalis, just saying out loud so you know I got it. I'm not even talking about the distinction of ownership, which is another problem that is actually directly related to this. Because who owns Mario? Now you say Nintendo, But it is, of course, more complex than that because that's how ownership can actually work. Let's say a single individual at Nintendo invents a new character and adds it to a Mario game. Who owns that new character? There's... That was the joke, hazardous. There's, yeah, there's some when it comes to that. When it comes to who owns what with regards to collaboration works. And that is one of the reasons, not the only reason. The main reason is greed. Let's just be 100% clear about that. The main reason for all this nonsense is greed. Let's just get that out of the way. But there are actual legitimate complexities here that can't just be solved, right? You know, if I make something, then it's mine, because I'm making it. But if me and Reloaded and Jesse all work on something, well, who owns the Star Trek Rewrite project? And you can see how this kind of becomes... And the more you add, the more people you add to the larger the project, the more this becomes a gray area. This is one of the reasons why, legally, companies are usually treated as an individual entity, which is something I disagree with, by the way. So that's neat. Anyways. Where's my notes? Is that it for that? I mean, I kind of already talked about the Star Trek thing, so that's actually not there. Look at that. So, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about Wonder Woman 1984, because I saw it last week. And then we're going to talk about stabbing, or I mean, that's it. And then we're going to go over My Little Pony. So, spoiler warning for Wonder Woman 1984 for anybody who cares. I don't know how many of you do. I haven't had to pull up the spoiler thing on the new computer, have I? There we go. No, I have the file. I just need to make sure I got to reposition it and replace it. Blah, 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 blah. Let's kind of put this over here. Oh, wait, up against the edge. There we go. Hey! Now, for those of you who don't want, we're not actually quite into spoilers. I like to give a little bit of time. That's kind of screwing up the chat. Let's just put it over here. I don't like to jump right into big spoilers. I'm not sure there are big spoilers for this movie, to be completely honest. But, you know, whatever. Stardew Valley knows us. So, the, I actually agree with that Lonely Dan, but Holodeck is all I have to say about that. Alright, so, movie. This movie, yes, Zactaf. This movie felt like it was written by two people. Now, if you're not getting the joke there, this movie was written by two people. I didn't know that until I went into it and looked into it after I had already sat down and finished watching the film. Thank you, Cronin FM, for that sub. Very, very much appreciated, as always. Thank you. If you want to put that towards something, please let me know. Now, I actually don't like Mr. Johns' writing. I never have, to be completely honest with you. I don't want to throw shade. It's just not my style, right? I don't know much about her style of writing, so I can't speak to that. Is it a good or bad thing? Bad. So, let me start by saying that I did overall enjoy the film. However, I was watching it with Third, and we were making fun of it for about 80, probably closer to 60% of the film. Because the film was very stupid. There's a woman. She's got slightly unkempt hair, she's wearing glasses, and she can't walk in heels. Now, having given you no other information, what do you think about that character? Absolutely, Assassin's Creed Valhalla, you got it. Put that towards that. I mean, villain is accurate, but nerd, yeah, she's just such a nerd. She's just, she's pathetic and terrible, and she doesn't know anything, and it's actually kind of stupid the way they present it, because it's so obvious how much the movie is trying to make it like, oh god, she's so pathetic and so terrible. And it's just like, there's this bit where a guy, she accidentally drops some papers, and the guy just looks at her like she's a stain he just rubbed off, he just rubbed off of his shoe, and sneers at it. And she actually asks him, do you mind helping me? And he gives the sneer and walks off. And Third just jumps in, yeah, that's how humans act. Now, I know that there are people like that, but I'm sorry, the movie goes out of its way to cartoonishly make her out to be super pathetic, right? Which is exactly my point. Some of you who've been following me for a while may or may not know that I cover My Little Pony. We'll be covering that later today. And one of the things that I have bashed that show for is exactly this. Exactly this type of thing. When a fictional work goes way out of its way to make its point so hard that it actually leaves realism and goes into cartoonish. It just goes into... right? It's shorthand. It's visual shorthand, and I tend to like visual shorthand, but within reason. I'm not giving My Little Pony a slide on that. I am certainly not giving Wonder Woman 1984 a slide for that, right? Yeah, hypertropism. And hyper-stereotyping. That's a great way to put that, Kira White Noise. You are right, Blow Felix, but you know what I mean. You know what I mean. So, there's a lot of that. I only gave you the one exception. The one example, excuse me. But there's a lot of that in this film, where it's like, we have to emphasize a point, so we're going to do it to this absolutely stupid degree. And I'm just like... This is what I mean when I say this movie is stupid. I don't mean it as an insult. I mean the script is deliberately and demonstrably unintelligent. Now, and it's this way most of the script, too. Like I said, about 60% of the time. Now, having said that, I want to follow that up with some praise. Because there are three characters who absolutely carry the film. That would be Gal Gadot, or Gadot, I never remember how to pronounce it, forgive me, as Wonder Woman. Mr. Trevor, I forget his actor's name, Chris Pine. There were Chris Pine as Steve Trevor. And, oh my god, I suddenly can't think of the actor's name. It is Gadot. Pedro Pascal. Pedro Pascal, who is the star of the film. I want to stress this for a moment. I'm not joking. This is not a Wonder Woman film. This is a Max Lord film. And I think the film was actually better for it. He got so much attention and so much screen time, and he nailed it. He actually had a character arc. He actually had change and movement and just great moments, and there's so much humanism to him. He's such a human character. It was insane. It really was his film. The whole time I'm like, huh. Now, I like Mr. Pascal in general. I haven't even seen The Mandalorian. I still like him. He's a great actor. So yeah, I kind of figured he would kill it, but damn, he absolutely was amazing. Now, forgive me, I shouldn't gush too much about him. Let's circle back to him. Let's talk about the duo. Life is good, but it can be better. So let's circle back to the duo. Now, Wonder Woman, it is a problem, Larry, and I agree. Wonder Woman and Steve Trevor, right? Now, on the one hand, the emotional beats between the two are great. One of the most heartrending scenes in the entire film is between those two. And there's a lot of really, really good character moments between the two. Silly moments, happy moments, connection moments. They do the fish out of water thing reasonably well. It's not perfect, I'm not gonna lie, but you know, they do a decent job with it. But the two actors have just absolutely fantastic chemistry off of each other and play off of each other beautifully. The thing is, for some reason, the film decided to have him body hop into someone else's body. Some other dude. Now, you're probably thinking, oh, so that was the big, like, that was the big crux. That was the big emotional dilemma for Diana, right? No, that's never even addressed. It never even comes up. It's like, there's this dude, and he reveals himself as Trevor, and she's like, oh my god, it's you. And then from that moment on, it's just him, and nobody gives even a like there's a passing reference when they go to other guy's house, handsome guy's house. There's a passing reference to the fact that he's a separate person. I wonder what kind of person he is. And they all just kind of shrug. At no point does either of them bring up, hey, so I'm body snatching this guy. And in a film that's all about speaking of stupid, the big theme of the film is lies versus truth, which I'm just going to go ahead and professionally disagree with. That's like saying Jurassic Park is a film about vegans. There's no basis there. You got nothing. You got nothing. This is not a film about truth versus lies. But oh yeah, sure. No, it's totally cool in this film that's supposed to be all about truth versus lies. It's totally cool to have this guy's life be ripped out of him. Maybe, I mean, actually, maybe he's there. Maybe he's present in the body. Maybe he's aware of what's happening. Maybe he's dead. Maybe he's shoved off to heaven, which they imply exists. The best part is, we don't know. They never address this. I should shove chat over here so I stop looking over the second monitor. They never address this. It never comes up. I know, McDunn, it's shocking. And what's really, really stupid is all of this is happening because magic. And I want to stress, this is like straight up confetti magic. It's reasonably well done, so I'm okay with it. Strangely enough. But it is straight up magic. There's this scene where a giant wall pops up in the middle of this territory to keep out all the infidels from this guy's homeland, right? They make nukes just kind of appear. When I say nukes, I mean a nuke and the silo and the means to launch those nukes. Like all of the infrastructure of a nuclear warhead and launch facility just kind of exists all of a sudden. That's the level of magic we're talking about here. And in that level of magic, why doesn't Steve Trevor just pop into existence? Remember, the main emotional thrust of the dilemma here for her, Diana, is that she's not sure if it is correct to pay the... So the big emotional thrust is not, hey, you know, he's body snatching. It's the fact that she is losing her powers. That's the cost, because every one of these magic tricks has a cost associated, right? Now that's fine, you know, there's a cost associated. But the point is, the cost is not you've replaced someone's body, the cost is she's losing her powers. So just have him exist, and nothing's actually changed. Right? There's nothing in the film is actually altered by this alteration. It's just, hey, so now he's there. This is one of the reasons I mentioned the two writers thing, Zilog. Because it feels like the two bodies thing was something that was grafted on. And by the way, only really matters for two scenes. The initial and when they are checking out the guy's apartment. If you remove those scenes entirely, you wouldn't even know there's a body snatching happening because it doesn't come up. And none of the other scenes, even the one that were in bed together, could have easily just been in her apartment, which we've already seen. Where would he get his clothes from? The same place those nukes got those personnel with those phones that actually have a connection to the White House. That works. Right? I mean, I'm sorry, this is so easy of a fix, it's actually mind-boggling to me. That it didn't occur to anybody. Now, I'm talking about a lot of stupid. let's dip back up to some quality stuff. There's a... I already mentioned that the two act brilliantly off of each other. While the world is going to hell, and my God, it's going to hell in a handbasket. It's like 2020 the film. It's interesting watching this movie now, because obviously I know that was intended, but anyways, going through it, and I mean the movie doesn't, Gum. There's this bit where Wonder Woman is effectively powerless, and he knows what has to happen, and he is aware of the concept here, and he is aware of what has to happen, because there's a get out of jail. This is rules magic. I've talked about that before. Rules magic, which is programming magic, you know. And just like most programming magic, you know, like curses in the Witcher series is my favorite example of that. There's usually a get out of jail clause. In this case, you just have to renounce it. You just renounce the wish. So you lose what you wanted. In this case, Trevor would go away, and then you gain back what you lost. So it's kind of a Control-Z sort of a thing. Now, this is a great scene, in my opinion. It's the scene where she is struggling with that. He is the one who has to tell her that she has to do this. And she resists and refuses and denies it, even though she knows it is what is necessary, because the world is basically getting wrecked right now. And he is like, no, it's okay. And it's this big emotional scene. I'm underselling it. You know, it's this big emotional scene. He tells her there's so much world out there. You need to get out there and live your life and stop living in the past. Which, by the way, I think is the actual theme of the film. The being stuck in the past theme. And so he's like, listen, you know, you need to stop being stuck in the past. You need to be able to get out there. You need to live your life. And again, the two actors nail it. And the best part is that what happens is they don't say goodbye. That's I know that sounds strange, but that's a brilliant scene, because they don't end up saying goodbye. Instead, they embrace, and then she runs off, and the camera follows her, and he's out of frame. And as she's running, sobbing, and again, Godot just nails this presentation. She says, "I renounce my wish." And then she gets all her powers back, and you could see it, and she just roars. This roar of pain. It absolutely sold how much this was hurting her to do this, because all her power floods back into her, and she knows it, and she knows by virtue of that, he is now gone again. And she's just, Gah! And absolutely brilliant scene. Probably I'd say the second or third best scene in the whole film. Brilliant, brilliant stuff. Two things. Because I can't just praise something, right? First thing, you'll notice that if he was just magicked back to life, you know, rezzed, as Blue Elf Alex said earlier, then this scene fits perfectly with no need for an edit. Because the him going away happens off camera, because the camera's following her. Again, I think that was something that was tacked on later. But the second point is that they then immediately ruin this by having Wonder Woman be capable of flight all of a sudden. In a scene that went on way too long, and just, I don't know, I couldn't stand it. After this big, emotional, heart-rending, oh my god, my feels scene, then they have this awkward, weird, her kind of flying through the clouds scene with badly picked music playing over it, in my opinion. And what? Like, the whole time I'm like, come on, you were doing so well. Anyways. Of the intros, Zilok? I'm sorry, what do you mean? I could dissect other parts of the film. You'll notice I'm barely talking about Cheetah here. Because I could point out the cliche. The cliches don't bother me unless they're done badly. The cliche in question is the villain has the same powers as the superhero. In this case, literally, because, you know, she is literally, her wish was to be like Diana, so she's gaining the powers of Wonder Woman. So, she literally has the power. Yeah, anyways. The fight scenes are okay, I guess. They're nothing special. I do actually like the actress, who is in fact a comedian, who was playing Cheetah. But they don't do much with her, and they kind of go out of their way to not really explain things to her, and there's not really much of a characterization for her, and that's part of the problem. Her characterization, I've already told you. You know, it's the cartoonish thing I mentioned earlier, and that's her motivation. Now, Third didn't know anything about this film walking into it. And after her first scene, her very first scene, when she's not Cheetah yet, when she's still the person, he was like, okay, so she's the villain of the film. And I just started laughing. Because, of course, I know who Cheetah is, and I knew that that actress was playing her. And he's like, what, I'm right, aren't I? To answer Zalok's question, so there's the kid intro and the burglar intro. So I would axe the kid intro without hesitation. It was a neat little scene, but ultimately I don't really think it serviced anything to anything. And I mean that with total sincerity. It established the fake theme, the one that isn't really the theme of the film, and otherwise didn't really do much other than show some superhuman Olympics for a bit. So I would have just axed that one, and I would keep the mall intro, which does a lot to establish what's going on. Because the mall intro is her... First of all, thank you, Blue Fox, for the sub very, very much. If you know where you want to put that, please let me know. The mall intro establishes effectively what she's doing right now with her life and how much effort and work she puts into remaining invisible, and even though it doesn't make sense. Let's not get into that. And it actually does a decent amount to establish the 80s, you know, the setting. The criminals, there's actually this funny bit. Third and I just were dying laughing. Because there's this bit, I know this sounds strange, I'm not evil, I sure. But there's this bit where the criminal decides to threaten a kid. Now, you're probably thinking, why is that so funny? Well, it's funny because we're sitting there, and Wonder Woman's just like, you want to surrender? Now, this guy has done petty robbery, right? That's it. Like the kind of thing that would get you 3 months jail time, especially in the 80s, maybe, right? So he decides to jump from that to child murder. And we're just like, oh, sure. I'm not going back. I refuse. And we wouldn't stop riffing on it the whole scene because it just kept getting worse. What was funny is the other criminals are like, no, what are you doing? Don't. God, no, please, just put her back. It's okay. And yeah, exactly, Federation Builder. What the heck are you doing? No. I'm not going back. You don't understand. Just the whole scene was comical, which I suppose is a good thing. And then Wonder Woman is total badass because, you know, of course it's an establishing scene. But just why? Less Malachor, I'll be honest. Destroy all humans. You got it. Destroy all humans. Remake. So I'm sure I can get the original running. Yeah, one of the guys screams, "You're an idiot!" There's other stupid things in the film. Did you know that Wonder Woman... did you know that the local museum carries modern jets that are fully fueled and prepped for launch, ready to go, and that Steve Trevor can fly one of them after seconds of looking at it? And that Wonder Woman just has the power to make stuff invisible? It's just an ability she has now. It's okay, she learns how to fly in this film, too. And for those of you who don't fully appreciate this, fuel is like the first of 30 problems. A plane being ready to launch, there's a literal checklist that you have to go through to make a plane ready to fly. So that's true, it was set in DC, so it was the Smithsonian, and we know the Smithsonian keeps fully fueled. And what's funny is they even have a line in the film, "You have enough fuel to get to Egypt on one flight?" And so they actually point that out in the film. I'd say about 60% Plutonia. 60% of the film and the script is just stupid. Whether it's enjoyable, stupid, or not is up to you. Like I said, we were making fun and laughing the whole time, so or the whole 60%. Oh my gosh. But let's cut to the best part of the film. I already said this. I already kind of gave it away. Max Lord. What's really insanely incredible about Max Lord, again, the actor absolutely nails it, but if I might toss something in here, how many of you have seen a scam character in fiction? You know, someone who's a con artist, basically. Obviously, I'm sure you have. Now, while there are exceptions to this, how many of you can think of exceptions to this, where the con artist character is not just scum? Because in most fiction, the con artist character has one character trait, and that's that they're a scumbag. Right? And that's kind of the norm. By contrast, Max Lord was a weirdly fleshed out, fully dimensional character who had layers and depths and humanity to him. It was astonishing. You know, this guy comes through and he's just... Oh, and what the best part, I already said he's the main character of the film, and I stand by that. He doesn't even start off as a villain. He starts off as someone who is... I think the word I want to use here is desperate. He is absolutely desperate to be better for himself and for his son. To be number one. To be the winner. Damn it. And what's really great about this, I'll cut forward to this, forgive me. Much later in the film, almost towards the very end of the film, is this tidbit where he says, we see a flashback of his life, and we see that his father abused his mother, and we see that his father abused him, and we see that he himself did not exactly have a good childhood because he didn't have money or resources. We get a 1 second of a shot of his not shoes. Did so much character establishment there. Because he can't afford shoes. That's the life he was living as a kid. That 1 second of that just did so much. And we see, you know, and we see he works himself up to this, and he's got this corner office, which is this dinky little place, and he arranges the display out just so, because he really wants it to succeed. And just, again, the actor does so much with his body language, but you could tell just how much he has been pushing for this and how much this matters to him and how desperate he is to make this happen. He even admits, after he gets his wishing powers, which I'll get to in just a second, he admits to one of the investors that, of course I knew it was bad, how could it, but I thought I could turn it around, and I thought I could make this happen, I thought I could prove it right, I'm sorry, I failed. And what's hysterical about that scene is, even though that's effectively his first scene where he is formally a villain, I fully believed what was coming out of his mouth. That was just him being straight honest, probably for the first time in the film. Yeah, exactly. He does such a great job of it. Yeah, Max has always been a complex character, at least until a certain thing. A Greek tragedy. Actually, that's not a bad way to put it. He does have a bit of a Greek tragedy arc to him. And he obviously cares about his son. We don't even see the wife, you'll notice, which we could argue is just typical shorthand, but actually I think that's on purpose. I think that whoever she was is not a part of either of their lives, really. Not in any significant... We do mention that he has them this week, right? And so obviously there is some implications of legal battles going on with whoever the mother is, and the rights and visitations problem, which is just another little tidbit that's tossed under there to showcase this. And he's got this huge, impressive-looking building, which is practically empty, and has dust everywhere, and like 2 employees, right? Brilliant storytelling with the Max stuff. I actually have almost no negative things to say about Max, his arc, his presentation, or his acting. Yeah, the regret, he's like, oh, how many weeks do I have with him? And then he sees his son, and immediately, oh God, I didn't mean it. Oh my God. And this whole time, he's literally fighting the clock, because he found this stupid gem, and he got it to work, and it worked, and everything's great, but wait, there's a cost. And so you see... And again, this is brilliant exposition. They don't actually sit and talk to the camera and say, So you see, Max Lord is slowly dying, either because of the powers of the stone itself, or because of pre-existing health issues. They actually leave that open. We're not sure. We can interpret that however we want. So, you know, this is something that we're dealing with. Her humanity, von Falkenstein. She was losing her empathy and her ability to care. But anyways, so, yeah, there's little moments where his health is clearly declining for one reason or another. Again, you could interpret that. And he knows this, and he gets more and more desperate. And there's this wonderful bit where he's reaching out to this guy who he actually referenced earlier in the film, who was a was a rival televangelist kind of a guy. He's like, oh, I can't take your health. And he just says that as a quick aside as he's thinking about it. And that one line does so much more to as far as expositing than so many films that can get right. It's actually astonishing how well of a job they did. Again, 2 writers. I'm not sure which is which. It would be very interesting to know which writer was responsible for which half of that film, by the way. I could just keep gushing. There's so many little moments. The way that he kept tricking people into making the wishes, the way that he, you know, there was this wonderful, beautiful confidence. I will take your oil. I sold my oil. Oh, very well. In that case, I will take your men and your security. I will leave you here for the mess you have created for yourself. And then he just walks off, and they're looking at him with this shocked expression, and then the guards start following him. And he's just like, wait, what? What are you doing? And it just sort of slowly dawns on them that he was being sincere. And that's my favorite part. After he gets the wish powers, he doesn't lie. Did you catch that? He lies constantly up until when he gets the stone. In almost every scene he's in, he's lying to some extent or another. And he just sort of stops lying after that point. But the best part is, no one believes him. Well, not no one. Most people don't believe him, because how could he possibly be telling the truth? Wait, what do you mean I lost my guards? Oh my god, where did that wall come from? Oh my god. What is it with you guys in Porsches? God! That could be, Justin. That could be. I don't know. I don't know. But the Max Lord stuff got some obvious polish. But I mentioned how... you know, I've already mentioned my second favorite scene. I've already mentioned my third favorite scene. I suppose I should mention my first favorite scene. By the way, the second favorite was the flashbacks. Sorry, where we found out about Max Lord's past. By the way, Mr. Lord. My first favorite scene in the film is when he gets to the helicopter and he runs out of the island and he runs up to his kid. Let's go ahead and admit for a moment that the fact that he still had access to the helicopter despite renouncing his wish, and the fact that his kid just happened to be right there is silly coincidence. Let's just acknowledge that and move on. The scene where he embraces his son and just tells him flatly, you know, that scene. And again, the acting absolutely just kills it in that scene. The way he presents someone who is just... I am unashamed to admit that scene actually drew tears from me. It was just so powerful. And he's so sorry. He's been a bad guy. I'm not that good of a person. But someday I'm going to be someone you could be proud of. Someday I'm going to be someone that you'll be proud to say, you're my son. I'm going to make that happen. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it the right way. And it's just, oh my God. Powerful, powerful stuff. And then the movie goes back to being stupid because everything just kind of magically reverts. I mean, the nukes vanishing in mid-launch doesn't bother me that much. But what I mean by the film just kind of ends is there's no conclusion, there's no denouement, there's no epilogue, there's no ending. He has that brilliant, heartwarming scene. We don't see Cheetah for the rest of the film. We don't say anything about Max Lord for the rest of the film. And there's this bit where Diana, where she's talking to handsome guy who doesn't even get a name, and that's it. That's the end of the film. I feel like there'd be a little bit of an epilogue or an ending to that. I don't know. Oh my gosh! Yeah, it's a new type of cheese. So you can see why I was so... Yeah, the ending was very rushed, I agree with you. The ending, the film, I did enjoy it, but it was kind of in spite of itself. This was a very bipolar film for me, personally. The parts that were stupid were only enjoyable because I was making fun of them constantly with my friend. The parts that were awesome were incredible. And it was just this... the whole film. And it's not... I'm kind of been divvying it up a little bit, but it's worth noting that the scenes literally would yo-yo in quality the whole time. Just, oh my gosh. And the whole film was a mess. I can kind of see... Yeah, no kidding, Michael. I can kind of see why people were overall negative on the film. Because, its bad parts are absolutely bad. If you haven't seen it, I do recommend watching it legitimately, if you can. Probably when it comes out on Netflix or whatever. But, because I think the good parts are worth seeing, put simply. I think it's actually worth sitting through the rest of the film to get to the good stuff, because the good stuff is just gold. Which sounds a lot like Cyberpunk. I just realized that. I didn't even think about that. I should have made that comparison on purpose. This is the Cyberpunk of films. Of current films. Yeah, how many of you have watched Star Trek Voyager? I'm sure at least a few of you have. And I have to admit that I'm a fan of Voyager. But one of the... Hey, Marcus Beard already got there before me. Voyager's good, in my opinion, outweighs its bad. I do. I do think Voyager's good outweighs its bad. I absolutely stand by that, and I still think it's a good show. But anytime I ever recommend Voyager, I always have to add that asterisk. I have to put that stamp on it, like, so you're gonna have to deal with some of the other stuff. Right? You're gonna have to... It's because Voyager does this. God, Voyager does this. Anyways. Yeah, when Voyager was bad, ugh. I still hold Threshold up as the worst episode of Star Trek I've seen so far. And all I've got left is Season 3 and 4 of Enterprise and the TAS stuff. So, we'll see. It's okay, Savakam. Neelix is a bad cook! Isn't that funny? What do you mean it's not funny? Wait, hang on. It's okay because he's a bad cook. No? Okay. There probably was Federation Builder. I can't think of it off the top of my head. Oh my gosh. Yeah, Chakotay is a Native American and into paleontology and history and boxing and Harry's a chunk of wood. Anyways. Oh my gosh. Moving on. Point being, Janeway would probably love Raktajina. Someone, sorry. I completely forgot to answer the question. Is Ben Wilmot still there? Because they asked something about Star Trek Discovery, and I didn't answer it, because I got off on another topic. Or whoever asked about the Discovery thing, and why we're not covering Discovery, why we're not rewriting Discovery. Okay, so I wanted to explain. So, I don't know if you're aware of this, but there's a bit of a vitriolic when it comes to modern Trek stuff. Which includes Discovery, Picard, and Lower Decks, right? Now, I legitimately don't have time to just watch TV in my life, so I haven't seen any of those three shows at all. I haven't even looked at them. I mean, I'm aware of where the plot's going, because it's my job to stay abreast of this sort of thing. But that's like reading a summary on Wikipedia, right? I have not watched any of those shows. Now, that's the reason. However, as a result of the that I mentioned earlier, I've decided to kind of deliberately enforce that. Because I've noticed that by virtue of not having seen the shows, I can give opinions regarding Star Trek without those opinions being tainted by, oh, well, he just likes Discovery. Or, oh, well, he just doesn't like Discovery. I've actually already noticed for the better part of the last year, actually, that people have already started very small scale, but nevertheless existent, fights about Discovery and Lower Decks and all that in my comment section for the Star Trek videos I've been releasing, which I remind you, I recorded before most of those shows were even out, so to even further distance myself. So that's why we're not covering Discovery, or Lower Decks, or Picard. Because A, I haven't seen them, most important point, and B, just letting things cool off a bit. It's a little bit too to actually have a discussion right now. Thank you, NLG Arm Devil. Always appreciate those subs. Thank you. If you know where you want to put that, please let me know. And by the way, Zalok, I saw your message. I just didn't have anything to say to it. I am curious what solution you have in mind. But anyways, so that's why we're not covering those in the Star Trek Rewrite project. It would also require being familiar with them to do that, and I'm not sure how I'd fit them in, having never seen them. Because the whole point of the Star Trek Rewrite project is to do it all in one cohesive thing, as one part of one continuity. I know that's a strange thought for Star Trek. So I have no idea how Discovery or I can never think of the names of the shows, Picard or Lower Decks, actually fit in at all. I agree, Blue Fox. Anyways, that's actually all I have to share. Sorry. I suppose I could just go ahead and hit save here. God, Zack Dev. So for those of you not aware, let me go ahead and hit stop recording.